Thank you for joining us today for the North Georgia Prescribed Fire Council virtual meeting. The theme for today's meeting is Prescribed Fire for the New Decade. What do you want to know? I'm Frank Riley, Chair of the Georgia Prescribed Fire Council and Executive Director of the Chester T. Chattahoochee RC&D Council. We are the Firewise Liaison for the Georgia Forestry Commission, the Southeastern Network member of the Fire Deputy Communities Network, and administrator of the Appalachian RC&D Fire Deputy Coalition that covers North Georgia through North Carolina into Virginia up the Appalachians. I'll be moderating today's event. As much as we all wish we could be together in person to exchange ideas and information and just connect with one another like we normally do, we are grateful that we can use innovation and technology to still have this annual meeting. It's important that we have it and not lose the year because we can't be together. Thank you to the National Wildlife Federation and the Georgia Wildlife Federation for hosting today's meeting utilizing the Zoom webinar platform. You audience members will be viewing today's virtual meeting in the listening and viewing mode only. You will not be on camera or able to utilize your microphone. The full agenda for today's meeting, the introduction document, and the bios of our panelists will be available for downloading on the Georgia Wildlife Federation website. The Georgia Forestry Commission site where it was originally housed is down, so go to the Georgia Wildlife Federation website and search for North Georgia Prescribed Fire Council. One of our panelists, Don Hagan, has dropped out due to a medical issue, so we'll be ending the meeting early and not have the last break. It'll be over after the last speaker in the afternoon. Please download and read the introduction to Prescribed Fire in Southern Ecosystems, which is on the website. It's the orange book that's listed on that website. Also, there are 3.5 hours of Society of American Forestry Continuing Forestry Education credits available for foresters who send us their information. And you send us your information at this email, info.ccrcd@gmail.com, and you send it. Kim will respond to you for your information. You need to send your name, are you a certified forester, are you a member of SAF, your state registration number, and your email, and we will turn it into the Society of American Foresters for credits for this meeting. You'll get 3.5 hours for this. Also, there's 3.5 hours for the Georgia Master Timber Harvester Continuing Education credits. Send us your name, your Master Timber Harvester number, and email at the same email I just told you, info@ccrcd@gmail.com. And also you have to sit through the entire meeting to get credits. The computer knows who you are and when you leave. So in order to get credit, you have to have credit for being through the entire meeting. If you'd like to submit a question during any of our presentations, you will click on the Q&A icon in the toolbar at the bottom of the meeting window. You may need to hover your mouse over it to find it, but it's down there on the bottom toolbar. Sharon Kamak, Fire Safety Officer for Georgia DNR, will choose your questions and read them to the panelists for answer. If your question is not answered during the presenter's time, we'll make sure that the appropriate panelist has your contact information and they will follow up with you after the meeting. So you shouldn't send questions, so Shan can filter them, pick them, send them, but all of them will be answered one way or the other, either on the line or later in the email. Our first panelist this morning is Chuck Williams, Director of the Georgia Forestry Commission. Chuck oversees the state's agency's leadership, its service, and its education relative to Georgia's forest resources. Prior to his appointment as GFC Director, Williams represented the 119th District in the Georgia House of Representatives. Take it away, Chuck.
Frank, thank you very much. Sound check. Can everybody hear me? Give me some nods if y'all.
Yes, sir, we got you.
All right. Let's see if we can get a little. I think that's us, isn't it?
I don't know where that came from. Check it. Go to your PowerPoint. There you go. From the beginning.
All right. Is everybody looking at the same thing I'm looking at? Y'all looking at a hot drip torch?
Got you covered, Chuck.
All right. Thank you. Well, it's great to be with y'all today. And I want to first thank a few people. I know I'll leave somebody out, but obviously for this to have morphed from a live meeting to a virtual meeting that took some extra work, and certainly the steering committee that basically gives the guidance to the Prescribed Fire Council. Thank that group for your work there. Mark Melvin and Jessica McCorvey and Kier down at the Jones Center at HOA continue to provide great support for the Prescribed Fire Council. I just don't think we would exist, or certainly wouldn't exist as we do, without the support of that team at the Jones Center. So Mark and Jessica and Kier, thank y'all for your support. Mike Worley chaired the Prescribed Fire Council, and Mike brings the support of the Georgia Wildlife Federation. Mike, thank you and your team for everything you've done, as well as today's meeting. Mike Davis with the U.S. Forest Service is a key partner of ours. And for us at the Forestry Commission, the Forest Service is a partner really in pretty much everything we do in forestry in Georgia. So we're appreciative of that. And then certainly Frank and Kim at the RC&D want to thank y'all for your support. What I want to take a few minutes to do this morning is to just sort of give you a recap of what's going on from the commission standpoint as far as prescribed fire in Georgia. Share a few numbers with you. Hopefully won't get too far into the weeds there, and then we can catch questions as they come in. Frank, ever how y'all want to do those. So with that, we'll get rolling. We can't do anything these days without talking about COVID, I guess, and that's the case here. It has impacted us as an agency. It has impacted burning in the state of Georgia. And part of what has really impacted us as much as anything has been when COVID came along, we knew that sort of job one for us was to keep our protection team healthy and able to respond to wildfire. And for that reason, we actually backed off and suspended a little bit for the past couple of months our traditional landowner assist plow and burn. We took some criticism for that. People were like, well, what's the danger to a ranger out in a bulldozer plowing fire breaks? But we knew that it wasn't quite that simple, that it was a matter of, them having to fuel up the transport and the dozer at the C-store and going to the repair shop afterwards. And we knew we had to keep those men and women healthy. So we did stand down for a couple of months, landowner assist plow and burn, but we're back up and running with that now and working through the backlog that both COVID and weather presented to us. So, like everybody on the call, we've dealt with it. It is what it is, and we'll just continue to move that ball ahead. Get into some numbers here. Now you can see this basically shows on an annual basis our fire permitting numbers. And of course, some of you on the call are familiar that basically Georgia EPD, the Environmental Protection Division of DNR, through air quality, really is the godfather over prescribed burning in the state of Georgia. They delegate to us through the permitting process, dealing with air quality issues as it relates to prescribed fire. So our prescribed burning fire permitting really is designed to assist the landowners and to assist EPD with keeping air quality numbers where they need to be in Georgia. You can see the stats there. This graph is not exactly linear. So when you see 2018 jumping up, keep in mind that the base number there is 720,000 permits up to 900,000. So 2018 was up, but statistically not a huge increase, if you will, from where we would have been in normal times. We just had a little bit of the planets aligned there from a weather standpoint, and that's the reason that 2018 is up. I will point out to you that these numbers, based on when you see years, these are on the fiscal year that we operate on, the state's fiscal year, which is July 1 through June 30th. They're not calendar year numbers, but they are fiscal year numbers. You can see this slide here on acreages. And you see there that it shifts a little bit. 2016 was a little bit higher acreage than 18, but you can see there that when you hear us say that, Georgia annually burns basically over 1 million acres a year, that's where those numbers are coming from. Sometimes a little bit up, sometimes a little bit down, but that is what those numbers are. We think for this year, we'll end up, there's only a few weeks left in this fiscal year, we'll end up probably around 1.1 million acres prescribed burn in the state of Georgia. And we feel pretty good about that number, given, again, the weather challenges and the other challenges that we've seen. This graph breaks down the prescribed fire acres by type. You can see the gold bar is ag, blue is silviculture, green is land clearing. So you can, and the red is sort of the linear trend line there. You can see what those numbers are doing. I will point out the legislature a couple of years ago passed legislation that basically sort of exempted ag burns from most of the permitting issues. We still permit them more for record keeping purposes, but it was the will of the legislature and the governor to basically allow most ag burns to occur regardless of what was going on in the rest of the prescribed burn world. And we certainly respect that decision and support that. So you can see there again, a trend line that's down a little bit, but still a number that we think is viable and sustainable for the state. Shifting over to wildfires very quickly, you can see there the number of wildfires in red and the acres burned. With wildfires, our goal and mission and our mandate for the state really is the protection and management of Georgia's forest resources, and the protection part of it falls heavily into wildfire suppression and prevention. So we take pride in doing that. The state entrusts us with a lot of assets. We have close to 350 suppression units, transports, and dozers, and men and women that are trained to do that. So we realize that's a big part of what we do. Looking at causes of wildfire, year in and year out, debris burning of various types continues to be consistently our biggest source by far of a wildfire, and then machine use, whether it's railroads or dozers or whatever being used in the woods, and then unfortunately, power lines have a role in there as well, and we appreciate the work utilities do in trying to minimize that and keeping power lines from being much less of a problem here in our part of the world than we know that they are sometimes out in California and other areas. So you can see here the state of fire in Georgia. Talking about our challenges, we've had a lot of rainfall within the past year, that hindered prescribed burning. We don't know exactly yet what will play out the rest of this year as we go into fall and winter. Looks like the hurricane folks are projecting a little higher activity level. We'll just see what Mother Nature throws that way. I talked earlier about COVID. We went into a teleworking mode very early in COVID. It has worked well. We closed our offices to the public, sent our folks home. In some cases, we deployed transport units to go home with those rangers to be closer to the operators. So we feel like that we really didn't lose much of a step there. Being a state agency, we can't get by without talking about the budget. The current fiscal year that we're wrapping up, we put together a 4% budget reduction as requested by the governor for the current fiscal year. We're working through that okay. For fiscal year 21, which starts July 1, 14% reduction there, which is about $5.4 million for our agency. And to help put that in perspective, I have said for a while that if you look at our budget, the Forestry Commission's budget between state dollars and other dollars being primarily federal, that basically every week that we open the doors of the Forestry Commission, the taxpayers write us a check for right at $1 million to run this agency. If you look at our total budget for the year, a little over $50 million. And this $5.4 million means that basically every Monday we've got to find about $110,000 in savings every week for that week. We heard yesterday that the governor maybe is a little optimistic about revenues, that state agencies may actually get some instructions in the next few days on tweaking our budgets again, maybe something a little bit less than a 14% reduction. And we will look forward to that. And again, we'll work through the process with the legislature and the budget. So Frank, participants, that really is what I wanted to cover. I think we're okay on time. Maybe got a few minutes left. If there are any questions now, whatever the process is, we'll take those or we'll move on. Thank y'all.
Chuck, I want to thank you and GFC for keeping permits open and allowing us to continue to burn. Super important. Only questions we got during your talk, a couple people were asking about the recording and where the slides are going to be posted. I think Frank wanted to answer that one. But if anyone else has any questions for Chuck, just go ahead and send them over.
Okay. Thanks, Shan.